It's fair to say when Kamala Harris got into this race, when this race started, she was considered a dark horse. She's a woman. She's a person of color. And in a party that dwells in this notion of identity, you would have thought liberals would have loved her. Now, by the time you got to the first debate and she went after Joe Biden, her poll numbers popped. She got up to the third spot, if I'm not mistaken, in some of these polls. But at the very least, she was third and or fourth. Now, she ran into a truck named Tulsi Gabbard, who in 30 or 40 seconds, for the most part, decimated her presidential ambitions. Her poll numbers immediately dropped, and she has been on the mat, not being able to get up to resuscitate her fledgling campaign. Well, at this point, she's polling in single digits everywhere she goes. She's behind, she's at the bottom of the pack. She's cutting staff in New Hampshire and in, what was the other state she was cutting staff? New Hampshire and Baltimore. This is not a campaign that is doing well. This is what you call technical political science term, death spiral. That's when the finger pointing starts. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. And it breaks out into the mainstream media where the mainstream media talks about it and say, well, this person said it was that person's fault. And that person says it's that other person's fault. And part of the problem with this is the moment that the death spiral starts, anyone that was going to give you cash at that point in order to keep your campaign ticking along will have second thoughts. Why would I give money to a campaign that is not going to get from point A to point B and has no plan to win, as was said? Why would I do that? They won't. When the campaign starts to implode upon itself, it starts to implode fully. And that is effectively what is taking place with Kamala Harris's campaign. Kamala Harris's state operations director resigned. And she did so in a big, splashy, over-the-top way with a scathing resignation letter, making the point that she's never seen staff treated so poorly in a campaign, or she's never been treated so poorly. And one more point. Bloomberg is picking over the carcass. Bloomberg is picking over the living carcass, meaning Kelly Manbacher has just resigned, effective today. Bloomberg has picked her up for his own staff. Kamala Harris in a death spiral. Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. These videos are brought to you by you. I mean, this content is pretty much instantly demonetized. Now, this video is not going to be long because my wife and I need to ride to DC, and I wasn't feeling well yesterday, so I apologize for the patron appreciation. That one was my fault. But I do want to talk about this. This was on my queue going all the way back for like a day ago. And so I wanted to get it out. Kamala Harris is not doing well. That's to put it mildly. And it's hit the press that she's spent a lot of money charging luxury hotels, luxury flights to the campaign while making her staff fly coach or to get into hotels that are not all that great. She also fired abruptly many of the members in her staff in New Hampshire. In Baltimore. Now, this was done apparently without even giving them a reason as to why. And the point was made that she doesn't have any particular plan in order to even win. Kelly Manbacher quits. She resigns. She issues this letter publicly. Now, again, this resignation, she was immediately picked up by Bloomberg. So there's a little diciness with this in general, right? I mean, ultimately, you quit, you put out this really big time letter, and then you immediately go to her opponent, dinging the candidate and going to help her opponent out. So it's a little dicey in and of itself. But it reads, "It is with a heavy heart that I submit my resignation to State Operations Director at Kamala Harris for People, effective November 30th, 2019. This is my third presidential campaign, and I've never seen an organization treat its staff so poorly. While I still believe the senator is the strongest candidate to win in the general election in 2020, I no longer have the confidence in our campaign or its leadership. The treatment of our staff over the last 2 weeks was the final straw in this very difficult decision. I mean, and to back up her point, this is the Hill. Kamala Harris spending on upscale hotels, first-class airfare draws scrutiny. A review by the Hill of California's campaign finance records revealed that Harris' expenditure follows a pattern. The Democratic candidate regularly charges thousands of dollars in luxury travel and hotels to her campaign. Meanwhile, Harris' staff usually takes cheaper flights and stay in hotels for closer to $250 a night, according to both inside sources and state campaign finance reports. A number of former aides say that, for them, the most discomforting aspect of her use of campaign funds was the backdrop of austerity in the California's government. Here's the thing, right? If her campaign, if people are talking, then there's a problem. And if people are aggravated in the way that they're talking, again, there's a problem. The moment this stuff hits the press, it makes it difficult for your campaign to recover if it was going to recover at all. And because a campaign requires cash to get from point A to point B and to pay for those expensive hotels and that expensive airfare, if you're not getting it, it becomes somewhat difficult for you to keep going. The reason I call it a death spiral is for obvious reasons. Her staff is being picked away by Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg has hired top staffer from rival Democratic campaign for his nascent presidential bid. His campaign spokesman said Wednesday that Kellen Meinbacher has joined as Deputy Chief Operations Officer. She's been working with California Senator Kamala Harris' 2020 presidential campaign. She previously worked for Hillary. Yeah, that's not good, dog. Right here, she also writes, and let's do it this way. She also writes, while I still believe the senator wrote that part, it's not acceptable to me that we encourage people to move from Washington to Baltimore only to lay them off with no notice, with no plan for the campaign, and without thoughtful consideration to the personal consequences to them or the consequences for their absence they would have on the remaining staff, my Barker letter said. It is unacceptable when we will lay off anyone that we hired only weeks earlier. It is unacceptable that with less than 90 days to Iowa, we still do not have a plan to win. Our campaign for the people is made up of a diverse talent which is being squandered by indecision and lack of leadership. Leaders who will lead, it continued. That's brutal. That's brutal. And she says that, and again, immediately jumps to Bloomberg's campaign. So you've just said that this person has an inability to lead a presidential campaign, which may be true. And then you immediately jump to her opponent. That's rough. You've gone from one sinking ship to another one. But do you, boo? That's fine. This is not pity for Kamala Harris. In fact, there's a sick thrill about this, seeing an opponent bite the dust. This is a contest. And as this being a contest, if Kamala Harris can't run a political campaign, then she should be nowhere near the White House. Just saying. Just saying. But that's brutal that she put a knife in her on her way out. She put a knife on her way out. All right, I'm going to end this because we do have to go. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.